Today we're going to show you how this can make your car photos look so much better. And if you can't afford one of these, we're going to show you how a pair of sunglasses can get you the same effect. This is a polarizer filter. How it works is essentially when light gets reflected off of objects such as paint, windows, anything reflective, it turns into polarized light, and this filter allows that light to be blocked out. Now this is pretty useful for taking photos and videos of cars because cars are essentially giant mirrors with the amount of paint and windows you have on them. How it works is you spin this little dial that's on top of the ring and it allows the polarizer filter to be adjusted. You'll have to filter through and see what is the right angle to remove the reflections from your car. This will allow the color of your car to pop more and be more vibrant. Now primarily I use this for daytime shots, but it's also fantastic for nighttime shots when you have reflections bouncing off of lights and things like that. Now this filter, as you can tell, is slightly tinted, so the images are going to come out darker than without it. That's usually okay, especially if you're shooting in day. That might actually be better because usually at daytime your images are going to be overexposed anyway. So I've come up to this mountain to take some photos of the car with and without the polarizer filter to give you a better idea of how these can really make your photos pop. Now currently the polarizer filter is not on the camera. As you can see, there's like reflections on the glass and on the paint, and the photo is also a bit bright for my liking. I've had to turn the aperture all the way down, but I'll chuck this bad boy on and we'll see how it looks then. Just put it on. I'm just rotating it slightly to get the best kind of look. There, the side of the car looks good, but the windscreen looks really bright. I reckon that's probably about the best looks to me. So as you can see, the color of the car is kind of standing out a bit more. The reflections on the windscreen are nowhere near as visible, and overall it's a better photo. Now you might be happy with the photo quality out of the camera, but when we edit these photos and do a little bit of color balancing, these photos will become a lot better and really pop and shine. And this even works on phones. So if we have a look here, I can use the filter over the phone and get the same effect. So you can use this and get some cool photos. Now this one cost me about $50 Australian, which isn't too expensive, but for some people, you know, $50 might be a little bit much. Or you're out and about, you don't really have one of these on hand and you just want to take some photos while you're there. A pair of sunglasses, which you might have on you, that are polarized will also have the same effect. You'll get about 90% of the effectiveness of one of these with a pair of sunglasses. These will usually have a darker tint to them. These ones are a lot darker than my filter, and they're also a bit more green. But again, nothing you can't fix with a little bit of editing or just adjusting your white balance as you're taking the photo. And so here we have just sunglasses over the lens. It still looks pretty good, to be honest, from what I'm seeing here. Again, not as clear. Once we edit this, it'll look a lot better. But if I like adjust them with the sunglasses, you can see the outline of my glasses, so that's not too bad. For, again, something that you might have handy if you're just out and about and you've got, oh, I've got a pair of sunglasses, I'll just chuck them over my camera. It can do a really good job. So now I'm gonna grab some photos and then head home, meet you back there to show you how to edit these photos to get them really crisp. So I'm back home, I've brought the photos into Lightroom, which is my preferred editing software. And here we can see the two photos side by side, one with the polarizer filter and one without the polarizer filter. This one we can see through the windscreen, we can see more details, and overall it's a better photo. There's also a lot less contrast in the photo without the polarizer filter. Now these are both unedited. We'll just do some simple color editing and these photos will become a lot better. So the first thing I did was adjust the exposure, just add a little bit more light into the photo and just a little bit more contrast. One tip for when you're shooting photos, if your phone or camera allows it, is shoot in RAW. It will take a lot more space in your files, but you get a lot more detail that you don't in JPEGs. Like if we brighten this up, things like in here are a lot more visible than in a JPEG. Like that would all be just black. And if you brighten this up in a JPEG, you wouldn't be able to see the radiator there. So the next thing I like to do is adjust the color balance. This is just personal preference. You might like a cooler image or you might like a warmer image. This gives it more of a retro kind of vintage look, but I thought just a little bit of a cool image. Not even that much, just about there. Barely any difference. And adjusting the tint just very minutely. One thing I like to do is use this color grading tool just to really get into the shadows and the highlights. Now I've just added a bit more blue to the shadows, as you can see, just a tiny bit. If we look in here, we can see the difference a little bit better. The blacks are just a little bit more blue. I've left the midtones alone, but I've just adjusted the highlights a little bit. I've just added a little bit of warmness to them. Now another thing I like to do that adds a lot more depth to the picture is create a linear gradient. I'm just going to drag this in here and just take a little bit of the exposure out and add a little bit more contrast, and already that's making the ground look a little bit more dark. And we'll do the same thing on the top. Bring the exposure down and bring the contrast up a little bit. The last thing to do with this photo is I'm going to select the sky because it was pretty overcast on the day I shot and there's just not a lot of blue in there. So I'm just going to add a little bit of fake blue, bring the temperature all the way down and bring the exposure down. Oh, there we go. That's looking so much better. From this to this. Pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that, and that's good to go on our Instagram. So I've applied the same settings to the photo without the polarizer filter, and as you can see, it's nowhere near as good. And this one's ready to go on Instagram, which is right here, where you can keep up with us and see more photos like this, and keep up to date with what we're doing. Now, if you're wanting to get yourself one of these for your camera, whether it's DSLR, mirrorless, or any type of camera, you're going to have to figure out what thread size you have. It will probably have the thread size on the actual lens, and you just have to match that number to one online. This one is from Earth, spelled U-R-T-H. It cost me about $50. I got it from Amazon and it shipped pretty quickly. We'll have a link to in the description for you can buy on Amazon. I hope you guys got something out of this video. If so, give us a shout out on Instagram. Send us some of your photos on Instagram at DAYCREW Media. We'd love to see what photos you get of your cars. If you enjoyed, like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.